from Charlie Harper ending an engagement in Las Vegas because the woman he wanted to marry told him Alan and Jake had to go. Then Alan married Candy on the same trip and announced he was moving out. So here are the times 2.5 Men showed us that Charlie Harper was a better brother than he ever cared to admit. At number 1, Charlie takes Alan in. We start at the very beginning. In the pilot episode, Alan leaves Charlie a voicemail.
My wife threw me out and I'm kind of losing the will to live.
And Charlie's response is not a grand gesture. He listens to the message and says, well, yeah, I guess you could stay here. That word, guess, a reluctant yes that he almost talked himself out of. But things do not go smoothly from there. Alan and Charlie get into an argument, and Alan ends up taking Jake to stay at their mother Evelyn's house instead. So Charlie drives over there himself and tells Alan they have to get Jake away from her because he watched Jake around Evelyn.
And what did I tell you about yelling in the house?
Grandma, I'm suffocating.
And saw exactly what that environment would do to the kid. So Charlie goes and gets his brother.
Sound familiar?
And a reason that sounded like it was about Jake, but was really about both of them. On the surface, Charlie insists he's doing it for Jake, but by bringing Jake home, he's also giving Alan a way out. Charlie rarely admitted he cared. His decisions usually did the talking. At number 2, Charlie pays for everything and Alan milks it. Charlie covered everything. The mortgage on a Malibu beach house, the food, the bills, all of it, for years, while Alan sat in that house, contributing nothing financially. And here is where it gets interesting. There was an episode where Charlie discovered Alan had been secretly stashing $5,000 in cash in his room. Alan had been pocketing cash payments from chiropractic patients for years, building a private fund for his future self.
The money isn't for me. Really? Who's it for? Old Alan.
While living completely rent-free in his brother's house. While Charlie paid for everything around him without a single question. Charlie found the money, paid for the pizza at the door with it, and made Alan spend the rest as payback. And if that was not enough, in season 6, Alan loaned Charlie $38, and when Charlie did not pay it back fast enough, Alan went outside and siphoned the gas directly out of Charlie's car to compensate himself. This is the same man who had been living rent-free for years, and he siphoned his gas over $38. At number 3, Charlie rushes Jake to the hospital. Charlie is playing basketball with Jake in the yard. Jake falls and takes a hit to the back of his head. And Charlie, the man everyone in that house assumed could not handle real responsibility, immediately takes charge. He drives to the hospital, and when they get there, and the waiting room is full, and he bribes another patient to let Jake be seen first. Then he stays there with Jake the entire time, not because Alan asked him to, because Jake was hurt and Charlie was the adult in the room, and he handled it. When Alan finds out later, he is so impressed by what Charlie did that he changes his will and names Charlie as Jake's guardian if both he and Judith die. But what stands out most is not how capable Charlie suddenly looked. It is that he believed he had failed because Jake got hurt on his watch. He was not worried about looking irresponsible. He was worried about Jake. At number 4, Charlie calls out Judith in episode 2. This one happens in the second episode of the entire show. Alan has been thrown out for less than a week, and he is already back at Judith's house, fixing the garden sprinkler, fixing the garbage disposal, and making himself endlessly available to a woman who just ended their marriage. And Charlie watches this and tells Alan directly, Judith is taking advantage of him because he never says no.
You're making the same mistake your whole life. Being the good boy, fixing everything so everybody would love you.
Now, on the surface, that sounds like Charlie pointing out the obvious. But what he was actually identifying runs much deeper. Alan Harper is a people pleaser. He could not say no to Judith because saying no meant she might not need him anymore. And if she did not need him, he had no idea who he was in relation to her. So he kept showing up, kept fixing things, kept overcompensating with his time, trying to earn back a place in a life that had already decided to move on without him. And this was not just with Judith. It was with every woman Alan ever had a relationship with. On that show, Alan's default was always yes. Charlie saw all of that in episode 2, framed around a garden sprinkler, and said it plainly because he recognized it because he had watched their mother run the same dynamic on both of them their entire lives. Evelyn Harper raised 2 sons who coped in completely opposite ways. Alan became a people pleaser who could not stop giving, and Charlie became someone who stopped giving entirely to protect himself from exactly that. He saw what it had done to Alan, and he called it out immediately because he understood the root of his siblings' pain better than Alan Alan ever understood it himself. At number 5, Charlie ends his engagement for Alan. Now, this is the one that reframes everything that came before it. Charlie is in Vegas with Mia. Mia makes it clear that once they are married, Alan and Jake have to go. She wants the house to themselves.
That's where Jake stays.
Yeah, but once Alan moves out, then Jake won't be staying there anymore, right?
And Charlie stops everything. For 3 seasons, Charlie complained almost daily about Alan living in his house. But the moment someone else tried to take that choice away from him, Charlie realized something. Complaining about your brother isn't the same as abandoning him.
All right, deal's off. Let's get the hell out of here.
Yeah, hang on.
Now, it is worth being honest about what that moment actually was. The show suggests Charlie's own fear of commitment also played a role in that decision, so this was not a purely selfless act. It was complicated, but when the moment came and he had to choose between the woman he wanted to marry and his brother's stability, Charlie did not throw Alan out. Then Alan married Candy on the very same trip. 5 minutes after Charlie walked away from the woman he loved to keep his brother in the house, Alan announced he was moving out anyway.
What's up, Charlie? You're finally getting what you always wanted. I'm moving out of your house.
Charlie could barely process it. Everything he just sacrificed suddenly seemed to have been for nothing. At number 6, Charlie always let Alan come home. Charlie spent years threatening to throw Alan out, and every time Alan annoyed him, and even the times he did something unbelievably cheap, Alan would always end up back at Charlie Place. After Alan's marriage to Candy fell apart, he had nowhere to go. Charlie could have reminded him that he chose this, that he had his chance to leave, that this time he was on his own. Instead, Alan ended up right back where he started, living in Charlie's house. And it did not stop there. Over the years, Alan kept finding ways to end up back at the beach house. Relationships failed, plans fell apart, and every single time Charlie would eventually take him back. That is what makes Charlie Harper so difficult to judge, because if you only listen to what came out of his mouth, you would think he could not wait to get rid of his brother. But if you watched what he actually did, the picture told a completely different story. Because whenever Alan needed somewhere to go, Charlie made sure he still had somewhere to come home to. He never knew how to say he loved his brother, so instead, he just kept opening the front door. Which moments hit you the hardest?